My name is Jolivette anderson-douoning, and I'm the Cultural Liaison and Program Specialist at the Black Cultural Center. And I invite everyone here to stop by if you haven't been by, to see the building and to hear what I talk about there. You can drop by anytime. I have an open door policy. What I want to talk to you today is about the history and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. A lot of times, the only thing that we know about Dr. King is the I Have a Dream speech. This right here is a book called A Testament of Hope. If you ever want to know more about Dr. King, I suggest you read one of the speeches that is not the I Have a Dream speech, and you will understand why people work so hard for him, his birthday to become a national holiday. Where have we been and where are we going? That is what I want to talk about today. In order for you to understand where we have been as a people, and when I say as a people, I mean as black people, or what we now call African American people, you have to understand the history of the United States of America. You have to understand the law. You have to understand social and community organizing. There's so many different things that come together to create the moment that you're going to see in a few minutes on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and as the cameras flash and pan through the audience. Where have we been? As black men, I will talk about black men. When I say black men, I want you to think not just black men, but black women and the black family, where we have been. We came to this country as Africans, somewhere in between the west coast of Africa primarily, across the Atlantic Ocean, into the various slave ports in the United States of America. There was a transformation that took place. That transformation happened to the psyche, it happened to the spirit, it happened to the emotions of those people. That transformation and the life that they began to live here in the United States of America actually changed those people from Africans into my ancestors. And when I say my ancestors, I don't mean somebody that's way back 100 and something years ago. I'm really talking about my grandfather. I'm actually 42 years old, but I'm one of those people that comes from a bunch of old people. Do you understand what I mean? You look at somebody and say, ooh, that baby look real old, like they've been here before. I was one of those children because my grandfather was born in 1870. Not my great-grandfather, but my daddy's daddy, all right? Had it not been for prostate cancer, when you get 40, make sure you get it checked every year, fellas. If had not been for that, my father could very well still be with us. My mother is still with us, all right? So when we think about the fact that my father, if he was living, he died just a few years ago, he could say that his father was born in 1870. So therefore, he had a father that was a slave, all right? So therefore, my grandfather was alive during the time when the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were still being debated. He was being born, all right? The 13th Amendment said that black people were free, right? The 14th Amendment said that we were citizens, and the 15th Amendment said that black folks could vote, and only black men, not black women, all right? He was alive in 1896 when Plessy versus Ferguson was passed by the Supreme Court. Plessy versus Ferguson instituted Jim Crow segregation primarily in the South because Rutherford B. Hayes, which was one of our presidents, agreed, just so he could get the Southern votes, he agreed to pull the National Guard troops out of the South. And that is the way that many whites began to terrorize African Americans, and they were able to institute and put into practice the laws of Jim Crow segregation. So, roughly spoken, and y'all tough, y'all can handle this statement, what we think about is terrorism today. You know, people flying things into planes, and we stereotype people that may be Muslim and so forth and so on. That brand of terrorism that's that's in our heads right now, many black people looked at white people as terrorists during this particular time, okay? That is the reality of this time, and that's the reality of how things are shifting, have shifted, okay? So when we talk about Jim Crow segregation in the South where I'm from, Louisiana, we're talking about what you see with the colored water fountains and white water fountains, colored bathrooms and white bathrooms. This is a lot deeper than what we realize. Every day when a black person walked out of their home, they had to navigate through white supremacy. They had to find a way to stay alive every day. And so there were these social norms. I could not look you in the eye, okay? I could not walk down the sidewalk, and my father couldn't walk down the sidewalk, and if a white person was coming, he had to step out of the way. You could not offend a white person in any way, form, or fashion without suffering some kind of consequences, okay? So just being who you are or being standing up for yourself was not an option. If you have a family at home and all this other kind of stuff, your goal is to stay alive for your family, all right? So I don't know how to make it clearer for this generation, because you guys have inherited so much, for lack of a better term, crap as it relates to race in this country, that it sometimes is probably very hard for you to understand, all right, what this stuff is all about. So we just, you know, as Cornel West says, we do the weapons of mass distraction, right? That means we check out. We do the video games, we watch TV, we do stuff. We don't necessarily put our intellectual curiosity towards trying to understand human behavior, relations between men and women, families, things of that nature, or the relationship between human beings and society. This has been for the longest about citizenship. How can we access full and complete rights to be looked at as citizens of this country without having some kind of mark on us? When do we have to stop proving ourselves, proving our intellect, so forth and so on, all right? So when we talk about Dr. King's dream and where we have been as a people in the United States of America, that is but a brief history. And I use myself as a metaphor. I use myself in my life as an example because I think it's important to contextualize the history of black folks. The facts, okay, Dr. King was born a certain date. He died April 4th, 1968. I was born August 12th, 1968. You have all these facts, but why is this stuff even important? What makes this so important? It was because there were millions of people in this country that did not have the rights that other people had. And it's unfortunate that in this day and age, we still have people in society who believe that when people say they want to be equal, that it's somehow taking something away from them, okay? That's unfortunate, but that's still the reality that we live in even today, all right? So where have we been? That's where we have been in a nutshell, because I only have 15 minutes, all right? So where are we going is the next part of what I want to talk about just briefly here. Where we are going, from this day forward, or I should actually say from Inauguration Day a couple of years forward, this is some of the conversation that I could even hear in my dreams, let alone, you know, conversations that I may walk up on and people stop talking, and it will go something like this. I just love black people always complaining about stuff. Won't they just shut up? We got a black president now. What else is there to complain about? That's some of the dialogue and conversation and stuff, right, that goes on, because we think that because of the election of Barack Obama that everything is okay now, all right? And Barack Obama in the White House is, quoting Cornel West again, it's a fulfillment of Dr. King's dream, but it's not the fulfillment of Dr. King's dream. Dr. King was working with sanitation workers in Memphis, Tennessee when he was killed. Garbage men, people that pick up your trash. He was fighting for their rights. He was organizing the Poor People's Campaign. And the Poor People's Campaign was going to take wagons and poor people who had very little, from Marks, Mississippi, all the way up to the Capitol. And they were going to camp out in Washington, D.C., so that the people could see the level of poverty that existed in this country and that still exists in this country. That was Dr. King's dream, okay? To uplift people from the levels of poverty that they were in to a better standard of living. That was a huge chunk of the dream, and that dream has not been fulfilled. That dream is not just a United States of America dream. That dream is a global dream. Dr. King followed very closely Mohandas Gandhi in India, who fought against economic exploitation of his people against foreign powers. All right? So this is more global than we realize. And if you're a Purdue University student, you need to understand that Purdue wants you to become a global citizen. Okay? They want you to be able to graduate with a degree from Purdue University and be able to work anywhere in the world. Okay? So what you need to be doing right now, perhaps, is having these experiences here on this campus that help you step outside of your comfort zone. What I mean by that is, visit the Hillel Foundation and learn about Jewish life, religion, and culture. Visit the BCC, the LCC. Go to different places on campus, because when you graduate, you're probably not going to make it a priority to do stuff like that, perhaps. I know I didn't, right? But don't let all this money that you're paying Purdue, all right, don't let it be in vain, because you knowing about other cultures and comparing and contrasting them to your life and your experiences could get you a job over somebody else, all right? Where are we going? The fact that the words that are being spoken now about a person of African descent being the President of the United States, the top job in the United States of America, is a step. It does not correct anything that happened in the past. That's what the system is for. One man that's of African descent does not clear up all the oppression, all the hatred, all of the terroristic acts that were committed against black people, that they passed down the pain to their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren, okay? Because in all honesty, by having a grandfather that was born in 1870 who went through all of that stuff and was alive during Plessy versus Ferguson and Jim Crow segregation, and he died in 1957, he taught my father that it was okay to respect white men, but never trust white men. That's some of the around the dinner table talk that was in my ears and in my brother's ears. Was it right for him in his time? Yes. Do I have to unteach that to myself now? Yes. And I think that's what we all have to do. If we hear things that are anti-anybody, we have to have more sense in our heads to question what is being said, why it's being said, and to make our own decisions about if it's correct for you or not. And little by little, bit by bit, that's how we begin to realize the dream, okay? Because all of us are a dream, because we're in here from different backgrounds. All of us are a part of Dr. King's dream, but we're not the dream. And I know I'm probably out of time.
You have a little bit more if you want to keep going.
I have a little bit more?
A couple minutes.
A couple of minutes? Okay. While